A3 meeting. Of the zoning hearing board for the city of Reading, Pennsylvania. I'm going to introduce the members of the board. Tom,
Tom Fox, member of the board.
Charlie,
Charlie Jones, member of the board.
Jeff. Jeff hasn't unmuted himself, but that's Jeff Gattone, a member of the board. Mr. Price,
Steve Price, solicitor to the board.
Emily,
Emily Diaz-Melenda, zoning office.
and Bill,
Bill Hars, member of the board.
and I'm Phil Rubina, chairperson of the board. We have a number of decisions that we're going to render first. We have 2 continued cases, and then we will get into the other appeals for this evening. So the first decision we're going to render is for Appeal 2023-06. It's 118 South 9th Street. Mr. Price,
Is there a motion to approve the relief requested, subject to the conditions set forth in the written decision?
I'll
So
make the
moved.
motion.
Second by Mr. Harps. Are there questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, ayes have it.
The next appeal is 2023-07, 40 Noble Street and 609 Brookline Street. Mr. Price,
Is there a motion to approve the relief requested, subject to the conditions set forth in the written decision?
So moved.
So
There's a
second,
motion and a second by Mr. Harps. Any questions or comments on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, ayes have it.
The last appeal we'll enter a decision on is Appeal 2023-08. It was 415 Woodward Street. Mr. Price,
Is there a motion to deny the relief requested?
I make the motion.
Is there a second? There's a second.
Second,
All in favor to deny the motion, to deny the requested relief, say aye.
aye.
All opposed? Ayes have it. I think we have one more, Mr. Chairman, and that would be with respect to
That's Robinson Street, 1128 Robinson Street.
yeah. There's 2 possible things. You can approve it with conditions, or you can deny it.
Okay. How about, let's see if we have support to approve it with conditions. Any board members supporting approve with conditions, say aye.
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 Okay.
So
Any board members who disagree and vote no? Okay, hearing none.
you need to have an official vote. Is there a motion to approve the relief requested, subject to the conditions set forth in the written decision?
I'll make the motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Mr. Gattone. Any questions or comments on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor to approve, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
Ayes have it.
Okay, now we have 2 cases that were continued from April. The first is Appeal 2023-05, 408 North 9th Street. Would you swear in our zoning officer, please?
You swear the testimony about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Has notice for this appeal been given?
It has.
Okay, Mr. Price.
Thanks. I put some exhibits into the record. Actually, they were put in last week and then it was continued. So all the 5 exhibits are already in the record. I don't know, is the applicant represented by counsel?
No, he's here by himself.
Okay,
Okay,
got to have him sworn in then.
all right. Would you swear in?
Do you
Can I
swear
get
the
them?
testimony? Do you swear the testimony about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
He needs an interpreter. I apologize. Mr. Gran, I believe you're here as the interpreter. You're still muted.
Yes, I am. Thank you.
All right, we'll swear you in, Mr. Gran.
Okay, hay que administrar el juramento primero al intérprete.
Okay, now
Please
you
raise
want
your
to swear him in again, and then we'll.
Okay. Do you swear to interpret truthfully and accurately to the best of your ability tonight?
I do. Thomas Gran, interpreter.
Thank you. All right. And to the witness, please, the applicant, please raise your right hand. Do you swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Alza la mano derecha. Usted jura que el testimonio que va a presentar será la verdad, toda la verdad y nada más que la verdad.
Sí.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Gracias.
I think the issue was that there were drawings that were not complete. There was not a lot of information on this property. Is that correct, Emily?
Yes, there was some confusion on the specific use that was going to go into that space. We did receive confirmation that it will be for an office use across the entire first floor with a total square footage of 1,928 square feet of office space.
Okay,
And we
Yeah.
did also receive a revised parking plan.
So, ella mencionó que el uso será para una oficina en todo primer piso con 1928 pies cuadrados y también tenemos un plano para el estacionamiento.
Let's ask the owner, what was in that commercial space before he purchased the building or when he had the building?
Antes de comprar el edificio, ¿qué uso se estaba utilizando para el edificio, ese lugar?
Antes había un social club y restaurante.
It was a social club slash restaurant.
Does he know the name of it? Does he remember the name?
¿Usted se recuerda el nombre del local?
No, porque cuando yo lo compré ya estaba cerrado por unos cuantos años.
No, when I bought the establishment, it had already been closed for several years.
Okay, and is it just vacant space? It hasn't been converted to apartments or anything like that?
Ahora es un espacio desocupado, se ha convertido parte de eso en unos apartamentos, ¿o qué?
Correcto. Parte apartamento y abajo local comercial.
Okay, so the interpret like a clarification. ¿Hay apartamentos en algún parte del edificio?
Sí, en la parte de arriba tiene apartamento y abajo es solamente local comercial.
Okay, so on the top floor, there's apartment, and then the first floor will be commercial.
But it's always been commercial on the first floor. That's what I meant.
Lo que yo quería decir, el primer piso siempre era un uso comercial, ¿sí?
Todo el tiempo ha sido uso comercial.
Yes, all the time, commercial use.
And he wants to put an office in there and use the entire first floor, correct?
Entonces, usted quiere poner una oficina en todo el primer piso.
Sí, oficina, sí, como multiservice.
Yeah, it's like a multi-service office.
And that would be open Monday through Saturday?
Y las horas de operación será lunes a sábado.
Correcto.
That's correct.
And he believes there's plenty of off-street parking spaces, about 20 to service both his apartments and this office space.
Usted opina que hay suficiente lugar para estacionar los vehículos. Usted ha dado un estimado de como 20 lugares para estacionamiento. Y eso será suficiente para el uso de los apartamentos y también el uso del primer piso.
Los parqueos son solamente para uso del primer piso comercial.
The parking spaces are only for the commercial use, first floor.
And, all right, and he's not had any violations or citations since he's owned the property?
Desde que usted ha sido dueño de la propiedad, ¿usted ha tenido algunas violaciones, algunas infracciones?
Ninguna, todo ha sido con los códigos de la ciudad, inspeccionada por los bomberos, lo cual confirma que puede hacer uso comercial.
None. I have had none. I followed all the city codes. It's been inspected by the fire chief.
All right, so to the board, this is basically replacing a non-conforming use with another non-conforming use that he's proposing is less intense than the former bar restaurant. So it'd be a special exception. So if anybody has any more questions, I'll turn it back over to the board.
Okay, Emily, just very quickly, his parking plan and the things he submitted to you, do they pretty much conform to the regulations?
As they were submitted this time, no. There is definitely a lot of room, for design improvements that it would comply with the zoning ordinance. They would still need to go through the planning commission for an annexation because the area they are proposing is actually 2 separate parcels. And so in order to develop it for parking, they would cross into both of them. So we would require an annexation. But the design there, so there's an ability to do that. It's just going to be working with their design professional to make it comply. They may or may not have to come back in front of the board for that for the lot size area. That's something that we would need to discuss internally to determine whether or not the lot area would be considered non-conforming or if they would need to come back to the board for relief.
Okay, Tom, can you translate that information to him, please?
Well, Emily gave me a walk.
I can condense it down a little bit. That the parking plan submitted currently does not comply with zoning. However, that's
Let me do it in portions. Que el diseño que ha entregado para el estacionamiento no está en conformidad con los reglamentos en este momento.
however, there is room for improvement and we can work with his design professional to make it comply with zoning ordinance.
Pero hay espacio para hacer las mejoras necesarias y podemos trabajar juntos para su profesional que va a hacer los dibujos para que esté en conformidad con las leyes y reglas.
And then, but he will need to go through planning commission in order to annex the lots because we wouldn't allow the improvements across 2 lots without them being combined.
Entonces tendrá que ir a la planificación para unir las 2 parcelas que tiene. Para hacer la mejora necesaria, es necesario unir las 2 solares que usted tiene. Y eso requiere una reunión ante la comisión de planificación.
Okay, thank you both for your help. Any member of the board have any questions of the applicant? All right, seeing none. Anybody, Mr. Price, do you have any questions?
Nope.
Okay, Emily, do you have any questions you would like to ask?
No questions.
All right, anybody in the audience who has standing, do you have any questions of this applicant? I don't think there are any. All right. Anybody have anything else they would like to add? Do you want to ask the applicant, Mr. Grand, if he has anything he'd like to say?
Entonces, solicitante, ¿usted quiere mencionar algo más a la Junta?
No sé qué decirle, si es como ustedes dicen, hay que seguir las recomendaciones.
I don't know what to say, but
Tenemos reunión con planning también, planning zone también.
right. And so we have a meeting scheduled with planning, but we're willing to follow the recommendations.
Okay, tell him thank you.
Gracias.
All right, I'm going to close this appeal. We'll issue a decision at next month's meeting. He need not be present. The decision will be mailed to him, and we thank all of you for your participation.
So vamos ahora a cerrar esta apelación. Se va a mencionar la decisión en la próxima reunión de zonificación. No necesario que usted esté presente. Se va a enviar la decisión por correo.
Ok, muchísimas gracias.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
And I
Mr.
believe this
Grant.
is the only matter that needs the interpreter.
As far as I know, yes, sir.
Okay, then I'm going to disconnect and everybody have a great evening.
Okay, and thank you, sir.
Okay, bye.
All right, the next appeal we have is 2023-09, and it is 601 Penn Street. Would you swear in our zoning officer, please?
Will you please raise your right hand, Emily? Do you swear the testimony about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Has notice for this appeal been given?
It has.
Okay, Mr. Price.
All right, I believe in April, this was continued. But I don't know if I put all the exhibits in, so I'll put them in again. Exhibit number 1 is the notice. Exhibit number 2 is proof of publication of the notice. Exhibit number 3 is proof of posting of the notice. Exhibit number 4 is the application, including all of its attachment. And exhibit number 5 is the zoning ordinance of the city of Reading. We have also received 2 letters, one from Acme Structure 2 LP located at 600 Penn Street. It's a Schumann company, and he objects to this, but he could not be here. I advised applicant's attorney that this would be allowed to come in and be given whatever weight it's needed. Also, the mayor of the city of Reading sent a letter in support of the application, which that'll go in as exhibit number 7. Mr. Schumann's letter will be exhibit number 6. And I believe that's it for written letters.
Okay, thank you very much. And I believe Mr. Cuck is their representative. Mr. Cuck, do you want to unmute yourself, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board.
Okay, Mr. Cuck.
Ladies and
before you
gentlemen,
get
members of the
started-
board.
Before you get started, if you are going to have a number of people testify, tell us who they are. We'll swear them in all in one shot, and then we can keep things moving. Okay?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the board, I just want to give you a little bit of a heads up here. I seem to be having a little bit of a spotty internet connection, so I apologize for that. But if you can't hear me or something breaks up, please stop me and let me know. So I apologize in advance. But thank you once again, ladies and gentlemen. Mark Cuck, Cuck and Cuck, 217 North 6th Street, Reading, PA 19603, on behalf of the applicant. The applicant in this particular situation, as you all know, is Dream Ventures PA2 LLC. That is essentially an entity that is controlled by Heights Advisors. You've all seen us here before, specifically with respect to 100 South 4th Street. We also are currently the owners of the Central Catholic Building. You'll be seeing that very shortly. And also just wanted to point out that we've recently completed some work down at the Fleetwood Lofts Building in Fleetwood. Gentlemen.
Mr. Cuck, can I ask you one question?
Yes, sir.
The prior hearing on this building, all your at least experts that you had at that time testified. You want us to incorporate that testimony into this hearing so you don't have to repeat it?
Well, Mr. Price, I hadn't really given that some thought. I think some of the testimony is going to differ, even though the applicant's witnesses will be the same. We have Andrew Goldsman, who is on board with Heights Advisors, and then Plato Marinaco. So the number of units has changed, the use has changed. So I guess I would say this, to the extent that the testimony is relevant from the prior proceeding, we would perhaps ask to incorporate that. But there could be portions of that are not applicable and not relevant. So
All right.
How's that for an answer?
We'll put it in.
All right, well, so thank you. So again, I've got 2 witnesses with me this evening, but ladies and gentlemen, I want to point out that we're talking about the 601 Penn property, which we think we've got a pretty unique opportunity here to present and complete a project that is just fantastic for the city of Reading. As you know, we've been here before to discuss some prior uses. We've really fine-tuned that application, and essentially this is our shot at it. So we are proposing an adaptive reuse. As I think you all probably know, 601 Penn is currently owned by Santander. We do have an agreement with Santander, and we do have letters of authorization to be here this evening. The focus of this is the first 2 floors of that building, as you all know, contain the restaurant and the existing bank building and mixed uses. That is still the thought process as far as the proposed uses go. Really, the focus for you gentlemen this evening is the concept of floors 3 through 10 that are currently office space. And our position, our belief, our arguments focus around the fact that literally downtown Reading will not see a need for office space such as what is currently been vacated by Santander in the 601 Penn Street building. We think some evidence to that effect will be shown pretty clearly by the fact that Mr. Schuman's property next door at 600 Penn Street currently, as of this afternoon, is offering 91,000 square feet of office space right next door. And so the testimony that we'll present to you this evening from Mr. Goldsman will indicate that that use just doesn't really exist anymore in downtown Reading. And so you would need to agree with us that that is in fact the case, because our entire focus then becomes converting that through adaptive reuse to residential space. Mr. Price had alluded to the fact that he was questioning about incorporating our prior testimony from a couple of months ago. The use has changed, specifically now to residential. And floors 3 through 10 primarily are focused on residential units. We'll get into that a little bit. The mix and the amenities and the simple fact that the sizes of those units are something we need to discuss with you this evening. The mixed use for the first and second floor is still pretty important with respect to the big picture here. And when you start to look at how everything fits together, the focus here for this evening is really the concept of converting to residential use here, this adaptive reuse, trying to make something out of this building that's now been vacant for basically since just around COVID. And so the unit count has dropped down, I think, to about 207 units. The focus here is going to be on those residential units, the adaptive reuse, the size of those units, and obviously the concept of parking. Those are the big picture items for you this evening. So essentially, I'd like you to consider that and treat that as an offer of proof as it relates to this proceeding. I know that you have a lot on your schedule this evening. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I would certainly like to swear Mr. Andrew Goldsman and Mr. Plato Marinakos. Those would be my 2 witnesses for you this evening. We'll get those out of the way, and then we'll proceed with Andrew, if that's okay with the board.
Okay, Sandra, you want to swear these people in?
All right, will you both please raise your right hand? Do I have the other? Do you swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
All right, and then Mr. Price and members of the board, just before we get started, Mr. Price, I do want to lodge an objection for Mr. Schuman's letter. I understand you've already advised the board they'll take it for what it's worth. I do specifically, though, have an issue with the attachment to that letter in particular, which is some form of email from somewhere that I couldn't even make sense of it. So I would just like officially to object to that for those purposes.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
Mr. Goldsman, you've heard my opening offer of proof. Would you please state your full name and your address, your business address for the record?
Andrew Goldsman, 140 Ramsden Street, 2nd floor, Brooklyn, New York.
Spell your last name.
Goltzman.
All right, Mr. Goldsman, so you heard my opening remarks. Are you employed by Heights Advisors and representative of Dream Ventures PA2 LLC?
Yes.
Could you
Yes.
tell the board about your background and your history with respect to this project?
We've been involved with this project now for about a year. It was brought to our attention. It's not something that we sought out. We were working on our project at 100 South 4th Street. We were working on the acquisition of Central Catholic High School, and the project was brought to our attention. It had been on the market for a bit, and we a couple of folks asked us to take a look at it, and we did, and ultimately entered into a purchase agreement with the bank.
Mr. Goldsman, this property is located in the CC district, to your understanding?
Yes.
And did you kind of research and review extensively the zoning ordinance and the implications as it relates to 601 Penn Street?
Yes, we had some early conversations with the city. We had, I believe it was with the Planning Commission, an informal preliminary plan review almost a year ago now, where we explained kind of what the impact on the land would be. We had that conversation, working towards eventually coming before zoning. Through the last appeal, which a colleague of mine was here for, and through preparation for this one, we've become relatively familiar with the zoning ordinance.
Mr. Goldsman, what was the reaction of the Planning Commission to your presentation?
It was positive enough that we kept moving forward and spending money on diligence. We weren't there really asking for relief, but it was positive enough that we kept spending money on diligence and time and having our professionals review this.
There are kind of two distinct portions to this building, are there not? The first and second floor?
Yeah, so you have the tower, which includes part of the second floor, and then you have the base, which is almost twice the size of the tower portion, which includes a little bit more than half of the second floor, the entire first floor, and then we have a basement, which is about the size of the tower portion.
And so what is your proposal for the mixed use of that first and second floor? What do you envision there?
So the basement, first, second floor will be comprised of tenant facing spaces, retail spaces, and hopefully maintaining the current restaurant, and hopefully Santander retaining their presence on that corner.
When you take a look then at the balance of the tower, that's floors 3 through 10, are you proposing that to be all residential?
Yep, the tower portion of 2, 3 through 10.
The primary focus here to keep in mind, I think, with respect to the building, is you're not proposing to change any of the exterior, with the exception, I believe, of is it loading docks or loading spaces?
Yeah, so we'll have an internal loading zone that'll require a way to access it. So it'll be pretty deep inside of the building, and as you know, we've prepared to present some of those plans today, so we'll be able to highlight the location of that internal loading area, which will require street access, and we'll get into that. But yes, other than what's required for plumbing, HVAC required connections, which hopefully mostly will be through the roof of the building and not visible from the street, there are no immediate plans to change the facade.
And so the significant challenge here is that this is a 10-story building, am I right?
Yes.
And you have to work through the parameters of what's already existing. Is that fair?
Yes, as a single tenant office building.
So at this point in time, who is left in occupancy? Is it just the Santander branch? That's all that's left in the building?
And a skeleton maintenance crew.
So Emily, could we please pull up the applicant's exhibit that we sent over today?
This one?
That's it. So, Mr. Goldsman, Emily has brought up on the screen a document which I believe you have created consisting of 31 pages. Is this essentially the applicant's exhibit for the presentation this evening?
Yes.
And so, Mr. Price, we would mark this as sequential or applicants one. What's your preference?
Mark it 8.
8, fair enough. Mr. Goldsman, could you walk us through the focus of this on the first couple of pages, please?
Sure. And then I'll just say next slide. This way we could stay together. So you go the next slide. So currently the property is vacant as Mark mentioned. So roughly 140,000 square feet. The site's about a little bit over a half acre, and as everyone knows, it's right in the heart of downtown. This was based on Santander's internal floor plans where they arranged employees. They had desk space for about 700 or 800 employees in this tower. Those desks are still there. At its peak, obviously, it was built for a predecessor institution, but it was meant to be fully operable and occupied. The building was really built for a single use tenant. It was a flagship kind of corporate campus, if you will, in an urban environment. There are no office suites. The floors are separated, and we've extended an invitation for the board to come visit the building. Santander is very happy to host that visit if there's an interest following the hearing, so you get an idea on the ground of how it's set up. But essentially, you're talking about a single tenant office complex where you had records and secretarial on the lower floors all the way up to kind of the C-suite on top for this location. And really since COVID, the building has been vacant. There's a part-time maintenance crew that helps service and clean the building for the purposes of the retail. There's a full-time security person there during the day that's stationed on the first floor, and they're jumping off their location on 5th and Penn, which remains active for now. And then the branch is currently in operation. It was a key point for the bank to retain that branch given the proximity to the arena and obviously the importance of that from a marketing and business perspective for the bank. We can go to the next slide. So this is just a screenshot, which is cited in this presentation from the Stantec plan that was the proposal that was submitted for the city for the downtown master plan, and for the purposes of active versus non-active properties, red is good. Where you had the Sovereign, which is Santander Plaza. You have the Reading, the Alvernia College Town. You have some of the other buildings which are active. The Wells Fargo building across the street, the former Exide building, adjacent to the plaza, and then some of the buildings closer to the county seat. Obviously, I'm sure folks are aware of the layoffs that are occurring at the 5th and Penn Street location now for Santander. I believe it was 70 something employees. That was in the newspaper recently. We haven't spoken to Santander about that, but it obviously reduces the impact of that 5th and Penn Street location. You have Santander, the Santander building on 6th and Penn, which is currently inactive, and then a plan that saw at least I think we counted 7 or 8 active properties along this really important core downtown stretch. Have a few more have gone dark, and what is difficult when situated with a single use tenant building like this is finding someone with the capacity to lease a space this large, and then someone with a willingness to move here, assuming that they're not already here. And we had conversations recently and you know, a year ago when we started, you know, with large, you know, national brokerage firms about potentially identifying a large corporate tenant to take the space. And you know, we're here before you with the plans we have today, you know, because we've been unsuccessful at identifying, you know, someone for that space. We've reached out to a number of national and regional retailers, you know, direct email, phone, you know, over the course of the last year, have received, you know, essentially what amounts to no serious interest in the retail portion of the building as it's situated now. And you know, based on our experience, which we'll review just briefly, you know, before we get into the floor plans, you know, we're well situated to act on the opportunity here, which is taking a what appears to be an unexpected void. The Stantec report was that this was pulled from is from 2021, and immediately reactivating it for you know, downtown Reading, you know, obviously with construction schedules, what have you. And that's really the focus here is how do we take the unique circumstances that we're presented with a single use office tower in downtown Reading, where it's really hard to find a occupant for that type of space. The building is non-conforming, the lot's non-conforming. You know, as the building is built on it now, the use is conforming. However, and you know, activate the space for the city, and then also just for the sake of maintaining the asset. We can go to the next slide.
Andrew, while Emily's moving to that next slide, just to kind of refocus directly on those issues. Number one, I mean, the existing office use, in your experience and in your understanding of the city and the location, do you have any doubt that what you're proposing here is essentially saving this building?
Yes, and I mean, you know, and the concerns that, you know, Mark's objection, notwithstanding that, which I'll leave for Mark, for, you know, Alan's letter is, you know, I spoke to Alan earlier today after the letter came in, and you know, I'll reiterate here what I said to him is, you know, he has been right basically about everything that we've experienced in Reading since we got here. And he may not be right about this, and the at least in terms of the representations of the office market. And the reason is, and he did not disagree with me, because I think we narrowed the point to where it was difficult, is because he's better at commercial than we're ever going to be. So where his group might be able to eventually lease this building, given their complementary, you know, properties nearby, it could take a half a decade plus. And then if we were to try to do it, or anyone else would try to do it, you'd have to compete with the best situated, best qualified, and one of the largest landlords in downtown Reading. And that competition, I think Alan would agree with me, is he's going to be a better commercial landlord than we are. And I say that in the most positive way to him and his business. That's what he's situated to do. And it would be very difficult for anyone on the outside to compete. So given that, you know, subjectively, perhaps there's another use to you know, someone like an Alan, if he were to acquire an asset like this, objectively to the outsiders, you know, it'd be very hard for anyone to compete with the two office buildings that are there in the Wells Fargo and the former Exide building. And then you take into account that this is a single tenant building in a tower with you know, very large floor plates. You know, we were presented with a building that is, you know, really hard to figure out how to chop up in terms of having office tenants. And it's fully furnished, turnkey, should the corporate, you know, client who wants the entire building present itself. But we've kicked tires on and off for a year with you know, to no avail. And it would be extremely difficult to develop by, you know, demolishing, you know, and or modifying the building. There's an office center next door that was open that I don't believe is fully occupied, just based on advertisements for office space. on the Sixth Street side. And, the larger floor plate, shared utilities and the configuration makes the building, difficult and expensive to compartmentalize without a guarantee that you would ever be able to lease it. And we haven't found a broker that would be willing to tell us that it could be leased in any reasonable period of time. They're talking years and decades, not months and weeks.
So Andrew, the bottom line there is that office is not the appropriate use for this building anymore. Is that right?
Yes, I believe that it would be extremely difficult to activate this property as an office building without, major efforts to attract a very large corporation to the space.
So then the best use that you've identified beyond that is the residential use that you're proposing this evening. Is that right?
Yes.
And do you believe that residential use in your experience is less intensive than that actual office use that was here before?
I mean, if you want to go by body count, sure. The Santander files that we were given access to indicated, something like I mentioned, 700 just office employees. Obviously, support staff there would be more. The proposal we have before the board tonight, it indicates around 207 apartments. Even assuming, and some of these units are smaller, even assuming 2 occupants per unit, even potentially 3, the intensity, obviously it will be occupied full time, except during the day when folks potentially go to work. The occupancy is similar or potentially less than what this building is designed to do, at its full capacity. So Andrew,
what are you showing us? I was going to say,
Yes.
What are you showing us on the next slide here for Exhibit 8?
Yeah, so we go to the next slide. Great. So I thought it would be we've gotten a lot of inquiries and questions about kind of other projects that we were doing. So I thought it would be best to kind of go a very, very expedited overview for the board of our other efforts in Reading that starting with the former Luden Mansion Central Catholic High School, which we are anxious and ready to present to the board because there'll be certain relief required there, different than here. And then just to juxtapose, that project and our efforts at 100 South 4th Street from the Santander building to really demonstrate how the unique circumstances that this building presents, creates a hardship that requires the variance that we're seeking today. So the first slide here, and it may not be easy for everyone to see, shows some sample unit types, which are much larger than what the units, will be at Santander. It's not because we're choosing to, create more density at Santander. It's just when converting buildings like this, which we've done on a number of occasions, our thesis is not to fight the building. And in a building like Central Catholic High School, which has long, very deep corridors, we end up with, 2 3-bedroom apartments with much larger bedrooms, much larger living room areas, and definitely different layouts than what a building like Santander, which is very square, has a large core, and does not present the length and width that a building like Central Catholic does. So that building is about 80,000 square feet. We haven't fully measured it, and it doesn't look like we'll be able to do more than 80 apartments there, which obviously creates a kind of square footage to unit ratio that is will have generous unit sizes. And if we go to the next slide, and I'll get into parking as it relates to Santander in a second. We also, we go one back. We also acquired the former convent across the street, which has enough land where we're able to develop approximately 90 parking spots. Our goal is to preserve the lot associated with the mansion in Central Catholic High School. And we would have a parking facility here, which was submitted to zoning. And we received a review letter that stated that upon planning approval, there would be no variance required as parking is an as of right use for that lot. So we would not be appearing before you as it relates to this property on Eckerd Avenue. But just to demonstrate where we have the land and we have the means, parking is a very easy thing for us to get behind. We spent a substantial amount of time and money developing these plans. We worked with the same engineering firm that the parking authority uses. And we would intend to obviously, move this plan forward, and this would be the parking that we allocate for the development at Central Catholic High School. If we go to the next slide, I have just a quick update on 100 South 4th Street, which the board granted relief on last year. So we've finished most of the exterior demolition. There was an old rotted fire escape. There's a new, as it was in the approved plan, there's a new central staircase as a secondary means of egress. We have new front staircase being installed for the Franklin Street side, which was also rotted. Unfortunately, the windows, when we were actually able to get in there and start doing work, were essentially all rotted through. So we replaced we kept the same sight lines and detail for the sills, and we were able to keep a lot of those details the same and replace all the windows that in the building, and which we purchased from a local Berks County window manufacturer. We have the utility work that needs to be completed in the next month or two. The interior framing is about 95% complete. The electrical rough, 70-ish% complete. The plumbing, about 90%. The HVAC, we're right about halfway done. If everything continues on track, we could finish the rough in the next, month or so. And then, we could finish kind of towards the end of this quarter, early next quarter, around, late August, September, if things keep moving and there are no delays. The next few slides,
next couple of slides show some of the product that you prepare, right? Generate.
And you could just, and we received a lot of feedback, I think, following the last zoning hearing board meeting, where there was confusion on the type of product and the type of folks that would be marketed towards if we were to do Santander. So you could flip through the slides here. So this is the Public Ledger building, which was redeveloped into 228 apartment units. It was formerly a kind of an eyesore on Independence Mall, and we were able to reactivate it. You're seeing pictures of West Lofts, which is former West Philadelphia High School, which was redeveloped into almost 400 units. And this is the buildings in Fleetwood, which this is the conditions we acquired it, some before and after. So we were able to finish the first phase here of 20 units. We're about fully leased now, not fully occupied. Most tenants are moved in, but we still have some folks that are still arriving. And this is right down the road from Reading. Again, extend invitations to anyone who wants to come in and view it, while we have apartments available to view. And you get an idea of the quality of these units. There are some square footage sizes there. These units are also extremely efficient, but as you can see, the finishes are great. We go to the next
Andrew,
slide.
so the board can obviously peruse those, but they're various projects that you've been in either completion or stages of completion or being completed. Show you the finishes, the fit outs, what you guys do when you basically put together these apartment buildings. Is that right?
Yes, we are trying to build a quality, efficient, affordable, meaning the everyday hardworking person can afford to live there, product that will be beneficial to the community. And I think that our work product speaks for itself.
Let's jump to that next slide, if we could, please, Emily. This will start the floor plate, I think, for the 601. There you go. Andrew, what is this? Is this your basically your room or floors 3 through 10 for the floor plate for the Santana?
Exactly. So there's a reduction of unit count, and there was also a reallocation of unit type. So we have 4 studio apartments, 6 one-bedroom apartments, 4 two-bedroom apartments per floor in this stack. What's unique is that the 2 studio apartments are easily combinable into 2 two-bedroom apartments. So if those apartments do not lease, or it attracts a lot of turnover, we could very easily pivot those 2 units or 4 units, make them into 2 units, and have 2 two-bedroom units, which would then be, obviously, it eliminate any efficiencies from the unit mix. There's laundry on every floor, mechanicals on every floor, and then we would have the opportunity to finish each floor one at a time to slowly introduce the inventory into the marketplace. We're not looking to flood the market with 207 units. We would be able to introduce, just like we've done at the Ledger, West Lofts, and even what we plan to do at Fleetwood, we'd be able to introduce units to the market over time, make sure that we're able to focus on leasing up, screening tenants, and filling the building with folks who really want to be there. The next floor, the next page is the second floor. It could be a good time to stop and ask Plato to weigh in. So the units require relief from Reading ordinances, but Plato could speak to this. They're consistent with the International Building Code, as adopted and unmodified by many other cities. I don't know if Plato wanted to jump in.
So if I can, basically, Andrew, at this point, if we probably want to go back to the prior slide, if we can, Emily, please. So Andrew, what you're focusing on here, and we'll get to Plato in just a minute, but it's the fact that an efficiency has a minimum square footage of 400 square feet. A 1-bedroom unit has a minimum square footage of 550 square feet, and a 2-bedroom unit has a minimum square footage of 700 square feet. Is that your understanding?
Yes.
That's the requirement of the city's zoning ordinance. However, the crux of the argument is that while our units do not meet the zoning ordinance and we've requested relief from those parameters, they do in fact meet the building codes. Is that right?
Yes, I believe it would add. The plans speak for themselves, but in terms of any relief we would need, but the units are designed to be fully compliant with the IVC.
And so I just would like to touch on this item just a little bit too. There's also a concept of the habitable the habitable space of the building, right? With respect to the percentage that's allocated based on the gym that you're proposing on floor number 2.
Yeah, so there'll be community facilities and common elements that will, expand the residents' living space beyond just their apartment. Doesn't mean they're going to sleep there, but it means that if you want to get some exercise, you don't have to do it in your living room. If you want to have a place to sit down and have a meeting with someone, you don't have to do it in your kitchen. It expands kind of the living space beyond just the footprint of the apartment.
All right. So at this point, I think Plato has been sworn. Plato, would you state your full name and your address for the record, please?
Yes, Plato A. Marinakis, Junior, Plato Studio, 107 South 2nd Street, Philadelphia, PA 19106.
Mr. Marinakis, you are an architect by trade, is that right?
Yes, that is correct.
And the plans that are basically presented to the board this evening, were those prepared by you or under your direction?
Yes, in my office.
All right, so essentially we're looking at the residential floor plate, which is the standard layout for floors 1 through 3. Is that right?
Well, 1 through, no.
I'm sorry, 3 through 10. My apologies.
Yeah, 3 through, yeah, okay, yeah, you're right.
And-
Second thing, yeah.
And just to kind of, sorry about that, to drill down just a little bit, there is a mix of efficiencies, 1-bedrooms and 2-bedrooms on each floor. Is that right?
That's correct.
The efficiencies, as required by the City of Reading zoning code, are supposed to have 400 square feet of space. Is that your understanding?
That's my understanding, yes.
What are the efficiencies that you have proposed on each floor of the 601 Penn Street building?
It's hard for me to read the drawings. It's we have the schedule, I think. I apologize.
Would you prefer to look at the schedule that the zoning officer had
Yeah,
prepared for us?
that'd be
later
great
today?
if you could have that. I remember reviewing that before this meeting. That's clear.
Emily, could you put up the staff report, please?
1 second.
Take your time.
Mark, if you know the square footage, why don't you just ask leading questions?
So as you look at the efficiencies with respect to the staff report, Mr. Marinakos, would the efficiencies have about 224 square feet to them?
That's correct. Yeah.
All right. And so by my count, there's approximately 4 efficiencies on each floor. Is that your understanding?
No, they're 8. They're 4 on
I'm
each.
sorry.
Yeah.
4
8,
each.
4, yeah, 4 each side.
All right, so Emily has just put up now the tally of essentially each of the unit counts for each floor. Then when you look at the 1-bedroom units, do the 1-bedroom units vary a little bit?
They do.
And can you explain the range on those units? Essentially, it goes from like 130 feet or 100, what is it exactly?
Well, it depends on the existing geometry of the space in the floor plan. But if you scroll up a little bit, please. So yeah, the square footage for like would go anywhere from like 200. Well, wait a minute. Hold on a second here. Yeah, so the total square footage, yeah, it varies from like 300, to 250 to 350, somewhere in that range.
And so do any of the 1-bedroom units comply with the requirements of the city's zoning ordinance?
No, they do not.
What do they comply with building codes?
The IBC 2018.
And then, so the same applies for the efficiencies as well. None of the efficiencies meet the city's minimum requirement for an efficiency, is that correct?
That's correct.
So then if we move to the 2-bedroom units, the requirement from the zoning ordinance is 700 square feet for a 2-bedroom unit. Do any of our 2-bedroom units comply with that 700 square feet?
No, they're about 490, just under 500 square feet.
So the same applies for the 2-bedroom units as well. They do not comply with the zoning ordinance, but they do comply with the building codes. Is that right?
That's correct. Yes.
So essentially, we have designed them to comply with the building codes. Are the requirements of the zoning ordinance for the city, are they somewhat outdated and excessive in your opinion?
Can you repeat that question? You broke up a little bit. I apologize.
Are the requirements of the zoning ordinance excessive and outdated as it relates to the square footages of the units?
That's my professional opinion as an architect, practicing architect. Yes.
And so have you seen square footages similar to that which you're proposing here in other buildings and developments?
Yes.
And do you believe that these proposed square footages for an efficiency, a 1-bedroom unit and a 2-bedroom unit are safe and acceptable and usable?
Yes.
Mr. Marinakos, are you familiar with the proposal to put a gym on the 2nd floor of the building?
Yes.
And approximately how large is that gym area? Is that about 9,000 square feet?
No, that's 9,000. No, I don't think it's 9,000.
I think the combined common area is about 9,000 square
Yeah,
feet.
it's again, a lot of these buildings, they want amenities and efficient, so that somebody can do a workout or have a meeting or watch the Sixers play, whatever, you know what I mean? So they can do multiple things in the building, and that's always like you build a community basically.
So Emily, can you scroll down to the bottom of this page, please? All right, so there's a calculation at the bottom of the page, Mr. Marinakos. Are you able to explain the compliance calculation that was prepared by the zoning officer here?
Well, I think what they're trying to say here is total supply with the gym. They're saying you get a little bit better with the gym versus without the gym.
Right. Mr. Goldsman, are you familiar with this calculation?
Yes.
Would you care to explain that to the board, please?
Yeah, and just to clarify, there are the 4 efficiencies of floor. I
Yeah,
think
that-
it accidentally gets at 8, but it's so I think what was, and it might be the kind of classifying as a gym just might be a clerical error. This is in our document. I think it was prepared by the zoning office. You know, the 9,000 square feet is probably the total common areas, gym, community rooms, and other areas designated as tenant shared amenity space. And they're, you know, what's known as grossing out the square footage of the units by adding the common area space to the net square footage space, and then allocating that out per the unit. So you would take 9,000 divided by 207, and you would add that amount of square footage to a 250 square foot studio. And then if it's 20 square feet, for example, then you're gonna analyze it as 270, not 250. Very broadly, that's what I believe they're doing here.
So the general concept is that by providing the amenities, the gym and the common areas, that provides more habitable area for each of the units. Is that the idea?
Yes, this will be dedicated tenant space, and it's for them to enjoy and live in.
And so the analysis that I believe the zoning officer was trying to do at the bottom of this page, you'll see that the existing per floor square footage for habitable space, I believe, is 58.17% compliant without those additional areas. Is that your understanding?
Yes.
And then by adding in the other amenities, which would be divided up between the units, your compliance increases to 66.69%.
Exactly.
All right. So Mr. Goldsman, you heard Mr. Marinakis's testimony about the square footages and the size of the efficiencies, the 1-bedroom units and the 2-bedroom units. Is it also your experience that the square footages required by the building code are really more in line today with what is safe and what is required?
Yes.
In your experience, are the requirements of the square footages for the city, are they essentially outdated and somewhat excessive?
Yes, I believe they have been updated in quite some time. I believe that the newer IBC proposes reductions in some of the square footage requirements. And you know, I think that it's not in line with what would make this project feasible. If we were subject to those requirements, then the conversion that we're proposing becomes not feasible.
And obviously then, like you said, not feasible, the project is no longer economically or otherwise possible. Is that right?
Exactly.
All right, Mr. Goldsman, let's go back to, I'm sorry, Emily, let's go back to the Exhibit 8, please. We were on page 25. Perfect. Mr. Goldsman, is this the second floor as proposed?
Yes. So this is the second floor. There'll be a total of 15 units here in the tower portion. You know, the layouts to be determined and consistent with the unit mix throughout. It's something we haven't locked in yet because we're trying to figure out the scope of what the restaurant space, you know, should continue to be. And as that's defined, you know, we're happy to change unit layouts and even lose units if we find a great restaurant that takes that space and needs more space. So we're requesting a little bit of flexibility there in requesting that unit count as part of the relief, you know, consistent with the unit mix that is on the upper floors, but allowing us the flexibility to try to find and market to a restaurant. We've spoken to Alvernia about, you know, them incorporating this space into their incubator. You know, I think it's become hard to have serious conversations with folks, you know, without, you know, a more definitive idea of whether this plan is feasible. And we go to the next slide. So the first floor, we have the existing bank branch. We have, the purple area we did some changes to the plan to maintain retail frontage along the plaza. So that'll be facing the Exide building, where previously we had the building kind of maintenance loading area, extending that entire, from the dark purple to lighter purple space. We've rearranged things so that you would have the retail frontage, along the exterior as much as possible. The internal loading zone, which I think was definitely an issue the last hearing. It's not a loading dock in the traditional sense of there are going to be trucks pulling up and out all day. This is a major building. If it was developed today, in my opinion, you would have an area for loading. And when we looked at existing facility operations, there are what looks like 40 or 50 rolling garbage cans still in the building, and it would be like a bucket brigade of trash rolling to the trucks in the plaza. The garbages were normally staged outside in the plaza, closer to the county building side of the property. And then folks would roll the garbage out. It would wait for the trucks. In the summer, it's hot. Garbage smells when it's hot, and especially when you switch to household trash. The idea here is to have a professional and modern area where a garbage hauler, a delivery driver can pull in, get off of the street, keep the unsightly things like trash out of sight, and we'd be able to have a trash compactor or two where trash would be directed towards, and ultimately that would allow the streets to be cleaner. The plaza, which was millions of dollars, I think, or hundreds of thousands of dollars were spent to renovate, would stay clean and free of rolling trash cans and debris, because that's the only reasonable option to cart stuff in and out of the building. And we've minimized that footprint and clarified a little bit, so it's clear that this is not a place for constant traffic. It's a place to handle the more unsightly parts of running a building this big. Even if it maintained an office presence, you would have the garbage cans rolling outside in the plaza again, out of sight, and keep and be an improvement to the overall area, instead of continuing the staging and then disposal of trash.
So, Mr. Goldsman, this is a pretty important aspect of this building, is that right?
Yes, it's essential for keeping operations inside.
All right, so what else do you envision on this first floor? Anything else?
Yeah,
right
it's
now?
kind of retail to be determined based on interest. Otherwise, additional tenant space and amenity space in the interim. We go to the next floor plate. We have a community space room, potential IT areas. If the bank might be interested in retaining some of that space. The gym would be down there, additional tenant amenities, utilities, additional, staging for refuse and supplies. And that's, we can go to the next slide, which is where we address parking. So something that we want to be extremely clear about, just like we were clear about, these units are meant to be, attract people who are going to add to the Reading community. We're not looking to burden the street parking around or close to 601 Penn in any way. We've spoken to the Reading Parking Authority. They have capacity at the neighboring lot. We are not asking for zero parking, but through the last hearing and a lot of the conversations, we realized it's hard for us to come in with a lease signed or a definitive number and say, hey, here's the parking number that we're comfortable with, accept it or not. So we're trying to be a little bit more flexible in order to get to the next step here. And our relief is requesting the zoning hearing board ultimately peg the number of parking spots acceptable here. We believe that half a spot to one spot per unit is ideal, with the commitment that if the parking demand significantly exceeds that, we will seek additional parking from the parking authority to accommodate that need. Any approval that a relief that we're granted would remain subject to us reaching an agreement with the Reading Parking Authority consistent with any relief that's granted. So in other words, we couldn't develop the property if for some reason we didn't retain the parking that the zoning hearing board ultimately, designates here. We have our ask, and we're open to what the zoning hearing board determines based on their experience, in downtown Reading. And there's substantial availability, we've been told by the Reading Parking Authority, up to the statutory and potentially beyond the statutory requirements of parking for for 207 apartments. But again, we're requesting that 0.5 to 1 spot per unit, with that commitment to increase, should and require tenants to rent spots should the demand increase. And it'll be a component of every lease agreement that tenants are, if they have a car and don't have off-street parking arrangements, are required to obtain off-street parking requirements. That is marketable and acceptable to us. The only additional relief we would ask for is, to have parking requirements tied to occupancy and TCOs and COs for specific floors. So we're not going to rent 100 spots, use a round number, at once. We'll, if it's 10 floors, to use a round number, when we finish the first floor, we'll rent the first 10 spots, and so on and so on. Subject to the number that the zoning hearing board determines. So that's our take on parking, not zero. And we will, once the world and the number is defined, we will meaningfully engage with the parking authority that we've had multiple conversations with about it, to try to reach an agreement that the development remains subject to.
And so then, just to be clear, Mr. Goldsman, the focus here is a reduction from 1.5 spaces per unit, which is the requirement, to a half a space to 1 space per unit. That's what you're requesting.
Yes.
Of the board.
Or whatever the zoning hearing board determines.
And the only other caveat that is your request is that be tied to documentation to be acceptable at the time of basically occupancy permits.
Or permits are pulled for building, a lease easement license, any commercial agreement to obtain those parking spots.
All right. So then, just as a little bit of a recap with respect to 807-A, the dimensional requirements of the ordinance, we are asking for requirement relief to basically be able to utilize the existing building. Is that your understanding?
Yes.
We have also proposed an adaptive reuse, which is what we believe is very specifically related to this building and this property, to convert it from office to residential. Is that right?
Yes, to residential apartments.
We have requested relief from the parking requirements as you have articulated them. Is that fair?
Yes.
With respect to the requirements for the units, essentially they all have kitchens. Is that fair?
Yes.
And the only primary issue that we're requesting relief from with respect to that particular section of the ordinance in 1101 has to do with the actual square footages of those units as required by the city of Reading. Is that right?
Yes.
However, we are willing to comply with all building codes as it relates to those square footages. Is that fair?
Yes.
And again, from an existing condition situation, we are proposing to add the loading docks, which is something that does not exist now. Is that right?
Yeah, the internal loading zone. They'll never be. It's designed so it's not truck traffic. It's building operation traffic. Yes.
Mr. Goldsman, do you believe that the adaptive reuse of this property, essentially from office space to residential space, is necessary to keep this building viable?
Yes. Based on our experience over the last year. trying to find something viable for the asset.
Is it your experience that what you're proposing for this particular property, do you believe it will be detrimental to any of the surrounding properties or neighbors?
No, it'll result in a reactivation. I mean, it'll bring people back to an otherwise dark space, and it'll result in a significant investment in the property. A scale of which is the only comparison is really College Town, which has done really amazing things for downtown, and I feel like it's going to be done in the same thoughtful way we've carried out all of our projects, and will only add value to the area.
To the extent, I mean, obviously your drawings and your pictures as they relate to exhibit number 8, as set forth in exhibit number 8, show the finishes and the fit outs that you do for these units. And do you need to the extent the board needs any explanation, do those pictures show what you do in these units and how you fit them out appropriately?
Yes, and we invite anyone to visit any of our properties at any time they want.
The mixed use on the first and second floors, do you think that is also kind of imperative to maintain the viability or to increase the viability of this building?
Yes, it's we really want to try to maintain that restaurant space and have it be a place that's adding a lot of value to downtown.
Just going back to focus on each dwelling unit, I just want to be clear. We talked about each one will have a kitchen, correct?
Yes.
Each one will have a separate bathroom, correct?
Yes.
Each one will have a separate bedroom, is that right?
Except for the efficiencies, yes.
Except for the efficiencies. And then we talked about the fact that they will comply with all other relevant building and occupancy codes. Is that true?
Yes, from the code Plato referenced, yes.
Mr. Goldsman, do you have anything else you would like to add to your testimony here this evening?
No, we thank the board for their time and consideration again on this project.
No further questions for Mr. Goldsman, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, I'd like to, if we can put the board back up on the screen. I'm going to go through the board, see if they have any questions of either of these gentlemen. And then I'm going to go to the zoning office and to Mr. Price. And I just think I'd like to kind of start off. I usually don't do this, but I have a couple of quick questions to ask. About how much will you have invested? I don't need an accurate number. About how much would you have invested in this project to pull it off? What kind of money are we talking about here?
A project like this, we would budget between $15 and $25 million.
Okay, all right. And I would assume that when you're investing that kind of money, you have done some studies that show that need in this area. I know you supplied us with some figures there, but I didn't know if those figures were based on studies done specifically for Berks County and the surrounding area, or if they were just kind of general numbers that somebody ran through a computer and came up with.
There's been a number of studies, some by the county, some reflected in some reports, commissioned or issued by the city that show a significant need for new residential housing stock. I mean, I could speak from experience to the lease up at Fleetwood, where we're essentially full with this first small phase of 20 units, in less than 2 months of actively trying to lease those apartments. We're continuing to grow here and have seen a lot of demand. We've seen folks move from, out of state, from, relocate from Easton that are working in Allentown, relocate from Allentown that are working, in Allentown. I think that there's the opportunity, as Reading continues to grow and develop to be a place that offers, an alternative to what have become very expensive rents in places like Allentown and Easton and Lancaster. And, Reading has the building stock and potential to easily compete with those places, kind of as illustrated by our experiences, here in Fleetwood.
Okay, thank you. I know you said you were going to bring these apartments online as you would fill them, which obviously makes some sense. If these apartments don't rent for some reason, what does this become? Does this become a subsidized government unit? Or what happens if things don't turn the way you hope they will? And obviously you've had a number of successful projects. So I'm not doubting your word, but the way the economy and a lot of things are happening in our country right now, what happens if you can't rent those apartments?
There's a obviously, given the amount of money and being that our only significant comp on the residential side is everything that Alan Schuman has accomplished, and he set a very high bar with quality and how he's executed. There's a little bit of a leap of faith. We believe in Reading, just like we believed in Fleetwood, where there was even less data than available on Reading. The data that we've obtained and review indicate a strong need for housing. The comps that we've seen, not Schuman buildings, other buildings, are really, our product would be superior, and would I think therefore be more attractive for folks who are looking for an apartment. And I think that the amenity space that we're introducing is unique to a development in Reading, and would offer, would attract tenants, in that there may not be a fit for right now. I think that the development going on downtown definitely would help leasing. It's not going to determine the success or lease out of the project. And I think that if we ran into some sort of issue, we would be smart about how we approach it, and it would be in a collaborative way with the city, not becoming cowboys and doing whatever we think is great. I mean, at that point we would come to city for help and guidance and try to figure it out together. But we're as of now, we believe in Reading, and I think the data supports that, and we would hopefully be able to move forward. And the other option is, if it leases slowly, we build it slower, and eventually it fills up.
That's fine. I appreciate that answer. And I think that's as good an answer as anybody could give. One last thing I want to say, and this is not a question, it's just kind of a statement. One of the things you need to be aware of with parking, and the Reading Parking Authority, and I respect them for the job they do, but oftentimes they are not designated parking spaces. So I think one of the things to think about in all of this, which we'll have to think about and you'll have to think about, is if people rent these units, they're not all going to work during the day and come home at night. Some are going to work at night. You know what I mean? There's going to be an ebb and flow, as there would with, any apartment complex. And I think it's important that somehow or another, if this becomes a reality, that there's some identification of parking spaces so those people know that they have that space 24/7 anytime they need it. So that's a statement you don't have to answer in any way, shape, or form. So I'm going to go to the board. Let's start with Tom Fox. Do you have any questions? You're muted, Tom.
Yes, I have three questions. Can you hear me, sir?
Yes.
We can, Tom.
Is it true, looking at the drawings, just a clarification, when you talk about a kitchen, it's on one side of the living room, is that correct?
Let me pull this up. So depending on the unit, there would the kitchen is located in the living room. Yes, on one of the 4 living room walls.
Yeah, well, that seems to be the case in every case, is that correct?
Not every case, but a lot of the 1-bedroom layouts.
All right. The other one, distinguish, I'm a little confused. You talked about this 9,000 square foot fitness center. And then
What-
you talked about a gym. Now, I didn't see on the drawing, I thought the fitness center was going to be on the second floor. Is that true?
So again, we didn't prepare that document. I believe that was a staff report. And the 9,000 square feet, I think, is an accurate representation of the total amenity space. So I would consider that gym, community room. So there's a community space on the second floor. The gym we currently have located in the basement, as well as in the full plan set submitted in relation to this application. Additional tenant amenity spaces is identified on the plans, and those are marked labeled pretty clearly. And we're happy to, if it would help the board, further identify those spaces on the plans. But yeah, I believe there was just a broad classification as gym, but I think it's the tenant amenity spaces would be the correct nomenclature. But we didn't prepare that report.
So the gym is in the basement, is that correct?
That's currently where it's slotted. Yep.
Yeah, and the fitness center would be somewhere included in the community space on the second floor.
They'd be one and the same. It's a gym, fitness center. It's the same thing.
All right. And the third thing, for clarification, do you have plans to rent to college students? And if you do, would they be restricted to one area, or could they be floor 3, 4, 5, 6, or wherever?
So as assuming we build this and have the permission to do so, we'd obviously be subject to fair housing laws, local and federal. So it's complicated to tell one group of people they can only live in one area. And it's something that if a institution came to us and said, hey, we're interested in reserving a floor for our tenants, obviously we have to consult with council, but that's probably easier to do than as a landlord proactively designate certain areas for certain types of tenants. It just you run into regulatory issues that we're and laws that we're subject to and have to follow. With that said, I do believe that some tenants would be students given the proximity to RAC and Alvernia's College Town campus.
Have you talked to either RAC or Alvernia about the possibility of that happening?
We haven't had conversations with RAC directly. We've been at this for so long that it's been a while. We've had conversations with Drexel. Drexel has toured the Fleetwood property, and we probably won't have availability for their students in the fall just because we'll be leased. Hopefully we can make room for them in maybe one unit. We're trying to work on something so that we have that availability. But I know from those conversations with Drexel, they were placing students as far as Kutztown, just because of a lack of supply. We've had extensive conversations with Alvernia. They submitted a letter in support of the last application where we had designated, we called some portion student housing. Here, to be very clear, this is an apartment building. It's subject to fair housing laws, local, state, federal. We will open and we will be available to anyone who qualifies based on the parameters we set, as required under the law. So that's the approach here. We're not going to be we don't think that we need to be reliant on one group of potential tenants, and we don't think it'll be occupied by just one group.
Well, thank you for clarifying my question. You've answered them. Thank you.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Mr. Jones, Charlie.
Just one question. In making a change from an office use to this residential use, have you looked at any change that may occur in the sewer demand for the property? And if there is a change, if there's an increase, what approvals you might need in that respect?
Yeah, so I could say today that I couldn't say with 100 South 4th is that we have experience in that now through 100 South 4th. going through the sewer module and, planning process, we would engage our engineers to go through that, at the time. We've invested significant resources at this point without a real plan forward. So we've not retained them to do that this time. We judge it to be a little premature, but obviously we would comply with all, local rules and regulations on that and submit the appropriate calculations. And from what the engineers calculate, determine whether there'd be increased flow.
Okay, but it is on your radar.
100%. And we went through those processes and received those permissions from the state and the city and all the agencies we had to for 100 South 4th Street, and plans to do that with Central Catholic as well.
Okay. That's all I have.
Mr. Gattone, Jeff.
Hi, Mr. Goldsman. I don't know if this is for you or for the architect. Please let me know. You made a comparison several times, building codes versus the, I'm just going to say some little problems with the city of Reading zoning codes. Your words are antiquated. But let me just ask you this. You mentioned the IB, what is that, the three letters, the IBC, or what was those letters?
The
Building code.
International Building Code, which is 2018, is adopted by the state of Pennsylvania.
Right, now let me ask you something. Is that one building code IBC? Is that nationwide or just the state of Pennsylvania?
The IBC
Is that the only standard for building, as you mentioned? The
It's
IBC.
It's national and international.
yeah.
All right, okay.
Yeah.
That's good. Now, one other question. I guess this might be Mr. Goldsman. You had mentioned the beautiful looking apartment buildings in Philadelphia. I imagine they're within the city limits. I'm sorry, in the business area. Where do those people that have those apartments, what is the parking arrangements for them?
So I'm extremely well. I'm very familiar with one of them, which is Public Ledger Building, where we just received zoning relief to open a garage facility in that basement. We received that relief a couple of months ago. We have not opened because we don't have the demand yet to open. We currently have an agreement with the Curtis Center, which is the building across the street, on 6th and I think and Sampson, that corner. And so I think we have just under 40 tenants there out of the 228 units, and the other residents, if they have vehicles, we're not aware of any of their parking arrangements. If I had to guess, because there is really no street parking there, they're in other private garages.
So they have their own predestined parking spaces 24 hours a day, is what you're telling me. Those are valet spots for those just under 40 folks at a 228 units. Okay, thank you.
All right, Mr. Harst, any questions?
No questions.
Okay, Emily, questions?
No questions.
Okay, Mr. Price, questions? Okay, thank you. All right, Mr. Cuck, well, I guess I should say, is there anybody in the audience that has any questions? I don't want to hear whether you're for or against anything. Any questions of either of these two gentlemen?
I have a question.
And all right, we need your name and your address, sir.
My name's Tyler Simmons. I'm the owner of The Plug on Penn Street, literally would be your neighbor, 547 Penn Street.
Okay, and your question is?
This is to Andrew, what type of income do you think these undersized efficiencies and apartments will attract?
So I'm going to answer your question just starting with the rents. So, from the rent data that we've gathered, I think there's a limited number of efficiencies, but, I think just go in the middle and use a 1-bedroom. Depending on the 1-bedroom, the rent might be, with parking, I'll assume with parking, will be anywhere from like $1,100 to 1,200, maybe 1,300 a month. The general rule that we follow, this is extremely, extremely general, is we like to look for 40 times rent in annual income. It's a fairly industry standard methodology. It's not a one size fits all, because if you have, a gazillion dollars of debt and you make, 100 times that number, then you might not qualify. But it's definitely not a one size fits all formula. So if you take an $1,100 or a $1,200 a month unit, you multiply it by 40 in terms of looking for annual gross income, it's that math is 48. You take other size units, you do the math accordingly. That would be really the entry point. I don't know what ultimately the application pool looks like, but that gives you an idea of what the minimum threshold, just based on our parameters and other properties in other cities, look like.
Now, you mentioned other cities, but I'm from Reading. I've been on business on Penn Street for 10 years now, so I actually know what's going on. And you're saying that'd be a starting income, or it'd be $1,100 to $1,200 a month for a 400 square foot apartment. That, just in my eyes, for the city of Reading, that doesn't even seem feasible, or somebody could actually afford that.
I'm going to object, Mr. Chairman. Once again, we're at questions only.
Yeah, now's the time for questions, but I do have to caution people. We're almost an hour and 45 minutes into this. We still have 4 hearings to go. We're not going to get through them. So ask your question, sir. And then if you want to say you think it's illogical procedure or illogical project, you can do that, but we need to keep moving.
Okay.
Okay. Now, was there any potential of being a plasma center? I don't know. I heard that there was going to be a plasma center in the building. Was that ever
No.
brought about?
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's it.
All right, thank
Okay.
you, sir.
Anybody else have a question? I think Marcia.
I have a
Goodman?
question. Okay.
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 Your
Just,
name and.
Yeah,
address,
my
please.
name is Marcia Goodman Hintershitz, residence at 564 South 15th Street, and a bit of history. I was in an office that rented from Santander Bank, so I had my office space in that building for over 10 years. Very familiar with the infrastructure. So my question is regarding the plumbing and electrical systems and such. The configuration when it was an office, there were only 3 men's and 3 ladies' bathrooms and 1 large sink on each floor. How do you plan to be able to increase the capacity of both the electrical, the plumbing, to be able to put the number of units that you're planning on each floor? It really basically is a large multiplier as far as what the capacity of the building was when it was an office building and what you're proposing.
So there is 3-phase power to the building, and pretty substantial power given the past use and the need to be on the grid. I'm not sure if the transformer capacity is adequate for the units. That's something that we would dig into during the mechanical, electrical, plumbing phases of the project. But if I had to venture a guess, there probably just minimal need to upgrade the electrical system. In terms of the plumbing, new bathrooms are cored, new stacks are cored, and then you're looking at overall line capacity. And that's something we'll look at. There is a significant water line and a significant waste line servicing the building now. So we would have to do those calculations, something the engineers do. And then if needed, those lines are upgraded or augmented. And it's something we would do in the next phase. A big commercial building like this typically is much easier to convert without changing those systems a lot, depending on what the engineers say.
Okay, thank you. All right, is that it, Marcia?
And I apologize for the noise outside my home. Will I be able to, I signed up for public comment, will I be able to provide that?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else in the audience have a question?
I have a question.
All right, you want to give us your name and address, please?
Melissa Ventura, 618 North 13th Street.
Okay, your question?
My question, my first question is, if the city zoning ordinance
has these minimum square footage for studio, 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom. Why would you continue with a plan with under that and expect a variance for that?
I mean, that's why, that's why we're here. I mean, we're here because we can't propose plans that are compliant with those figures, and we're here asking for relief, which is what the zoning hearing board provides.
So you don't look at the zoning ordinances prior?
Of course.
I'm going to
but
object to
yeah,
that question. I don't know what that
He
means.
testified earlier that the reason they
Yeah.
aren't complying or can't comply with the zoning ordinance square footage requirements is to get a reasonable rate of return on this building. They can comply with all building codes, but that would provide them with the cash flow necessary to purchase the building and rehab it. That's what he testified to. So that's the zoning board's job to make a determination whether that's a reasonable request.
And then my next question is, so you stated that one floor of apartments would be completed first to fill and then move on to the next one of apartments. How long is that process going to be? But in between building apartments for each floor?
At this stage, it's difficult to estimate, but it'll be done in an efficient way, so there's no impact on folks that once they move in. And we would come up with schedules and plans that would, and ultimately the building plans would have to be approved by the buildings department, and any certificates of occupancy that allow folks into the building would be subject to their review, and we would follow, those standards.
And then real quick, my last question right now is, what's the square footage for the kitchens?
The kitchens are like, I think it was mentioned, or in the living room area. So the kitchens will have all the standard appliances, and it's just, they're not like I don't think we have any kitchenettes where they're like in their own room. So because of the open concept, I can't say exactly.
Okay.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Thank
I have
you.
one last question.
All right, make it a question, please. Did you testify before?
Yes, I did. Tyler Simmons from The Plug,
Okay,
547 Penn Street.
all right. Briefly.
What,
please.
and Andrew, what value do you think by building or creating these mini apartments for downtown Reading, what value will that bring your neighboring businesses?
I mean, I wouldn't call them mini apartments, but I think that the building is currently not occupied, not used, and vacant, and I feel like a activation of the space, it's customers for you and folks around you, that are literally across the street, and there'd be a good chunk of them. So that's the best I could answer that.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Mr. Cuck, do you have anything you want to wrap up with, or do you want to proceed and further into this?
I have no redirect, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you. All right. Is there anybody in the audience who wants to testify for the granting of this application? You need to be sworn in, you need to give your name and address, and you need to have standing in order to do that. So, anybody testifying in favor of?
Yes, William Heim, City's Managing Director.
Okay, would you be sworn in, please?
Certainly.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Heim.
So I'll make it brief, but I'm looking at the Stantec study, talking to some stakeholders already downtown and doing my own reading. I believe a big step in transforming the downtown area is to bring people into the city, and perhaps the best way to do that is to have them reside downtown. And I think to do that, they need availability of market rate, affordable, well-planned apartments with amenities, and well managed. And I think this project brings that to the city. I think this developer has a record of success. I don't think they're going to walk away from a project that they put so much funding into. And I think it will wind up attracting a variety of tenants. And for that reason, I know the mayor supports it and I support this project. Things have to change downtown. It's been stagnant for too long, and bringing people downtown to live and shop and recreate. We already have a start with restaurants and shops nearby this project, very viable ones, and I think it will succeed. So thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Heim. All right.
Thank you, Mr. Heim.
Marcia, do you wish to testify for?
Yes, and I wish to testify against.
All right, she needs to be sworn in.
Please raise your right hand.
For or against?
Against.
Okay.
Go. All right. Do you swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. Please state your full name and your address.
Okay, my name is Marcia Goodman Hinnershitz, spelled GOODMAN-HINNERSHITZ. I reside at 564 South 15th Street, Reading, Pennsylvania, and serve as council representative for District 2. My statement is really clear. I understand the need to be able to reinvent downtown Reading, but I do not believe that this proposal, with the high density of residents that would be needed to be housed in here, is a realistic use of the property, considering the strains on city services. We look at police, we look at fire, we look at parking, we look at public works. There is a very clear reason why we have zoning that sets limits on the size of units. And that's to be able to make them manageable for the capacity of the city. And our city cannot afford to be able to really push people into congested housing.
Objection to the nature of pushing people into housing.
Okay, I will reframe that, sir. Thank you. Giving people residential structures that are very small and really are not attuned to the planned uses. Now, I have the fortunate, and I spoke about this earlier, that I did work in this building. First of all, I want to state that there was a misrepresentation of the number of people that were employed in the building. I worked there for 10 years. If you would look at the number of floors, basically 700 employees would have 100 persons on each floor. I rode those elevators on a daily basis. There was never that many people in that building. So I'm not sure where that information came from, but it is what it is.
I'm going to object to the nature of this
Okay.
testimony.
Duly noted.
Okay, let me continue. And I'm sorry if I don't agree with you, sir, but this is the nature of what I believe in.
I agree with you, Marcia.
Okay. I really believe we need to be able to, if we're planning residential, we need to do it in a way that really reflects what the capacity of the city is, rather than a shotgun approach. It says, oh, we can build this many residential units because we need buildings to be reused downtown. There are many other models that have occurred in the city that do this responsibly. To me, this is not a responsible use of the building, and I would be asking the zoning board to continue to adhere to the standards they have for the size of the units, for the requirements for parking, and not approve this application. Thank you.
Okay.
I also had another request. I did receive a statement from Donna Reed, Council President. She's not able to attend.
Objection.
We'll let it in and give it whatever weight.
Yeah. Submit it, and then we'll go from there.
So I should submit it in writing then.
Yes, please.
Okay,
Marcia,
well,
if you could just send it to the zoning office, zoning@readingpa.gov, and we'll forward it to Steve Price.
okay, thank you very much. And thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you. I believe that wraps up this appeal unless.
Mr. Chairman,
Pardon?
This is Malin Boyer, Solicitor for the Parking Authority.
Oh, yes, sir. I didn't. All right. Do you want to testify?
I'm just here to make a statement on behalf of the Parking Authority. I don't want to testify in any capacity.
All right. Make your statement. That's fine. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you. So initially, the Parking Authority wants to note that it favors downtown development, and it has, over the last several years, showed that it is supportive of development. Unfortunately, as everyone here knows, the city has and continues to face a significant parking crisis that the Parking Authority has, over the past few years, diligently tried to address through new on-street parking and new off-street parking through the development of surface parking lots. This particular area where this is being proposed is a area of inadequate on-street parking. The recent parking study by the city showed that the average use of this particular area for on-street parking is anywhere from 100 to 130%, which means there is full use of the on-street parking, and then there is double and triple parking also occurring in conjunction with that. In that regard.
So Mr. Chairman, I'm just going to object to the non-testimony testimony here. I don't know how to characterize this. If Mr. Boyer is not testifying, it certainly seems that's what he's doing.
I think what he's trying to do, Mr. Cook, is simply tell people what the parking situation is. I mean.
But that's testimony.
All right.
So, and Mr. Boyer, what's the summary of what you want to get to? So we can get it in the record, because we're not going to get through our other hearings.
Right. The summary is this. The board has been asked to reduce the required parking for this particular space from 1.5 to something like 1 or 0.5. And it's the position of the Parking Authority that there should be no reduction because of the ongoing parking problems in the city, and especially in this particular area. The Parking Authority takes the position, as Andrew stated during his testimony, that there is full capacity to provide off-street parking to these residents, and therefore the Parking Authority takes position that there should be no relief provided for that would reduce the 1.5 space per unit.
Do you have any cross-examination for Mr. Boyer, Mr. Cook?
So the only question I would, cross-examination for non-testimony, right? So Mr. Boyer, do you actually have authority from the board to present that here this evening? You have a resolution or direction from the Parking Authority for that position?
I do.
Do you have it with you this evening?
I do not.
Okay. No further questions, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Is there anybody else that wants to give testimony against this project?
I do.
All right. If it's repetitive testimony, we don't need to hear it. If you're going to talk about parking, you're going to talk about density, you're going to talk about rental rates or anything like that, it's already been brought up. So we don't need to have 5 people say the same thing.
So why did we sign up to comment on this?
Well, where do you reside, ma'am?
I'm Councilwoman for District 3. I'm at 618 North 13th Street.
Okay, well, if you're here and if you're here in your capacity as a council person, that's one thing. If you're here as a private citizen, you live too far away to have a direct impact from this, so you wouldn't have standing. So are you here as a council person, or are you here as a private citizen?
Both. Because I live at North 13th Street, that doesn't mean that doesn't affect me.
Well, it does. It does in zoning.
Okay, so what was the purpose of me signing up for public comment?
I don't know. I didn't.
I requested to sign up. No one said I had to be living on Penn Street or anything in order to speak on
Well,
this.
you have to have a property interest near the subject property.
Well,
Does it say that on the zoning agenda?
All right. That's the law of zoning. I'm just telling you what it is. If you want to testify as a city council person, go ahead and testify as a city council rep. But
Okay.
again, if it's about the same issues that have been testified to, the board doesn't need to hear repetitive testimony. So with that, go forward, ma'am.
All right. I'm
need
gonna
to be
keep my
sworn
comments to
in.
myself respectfully.
You need to be
So-
sworn in, ma'am.
All right.
You swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
State your full name for the record.
Melissa Ventura.
Just for the record, if I may, Mr. Chairman and Mr. Price, if she's testifying in her capacity as council person, I would expect there's a resolution or something to that effect.
I don't
If
have,
there's none, I don't think she can do that.
So how did Marcia just speak? See, that's the issue. There's no
he made no objection.
consistency.
He made no
We
objection.
can't be biased. Let's not be biased now.
All right, we're gonna have this witness testify and give it whatever weight the board wants to give it, but we need to keep moving forward. So she's been sworn in, let her testify.
All right, so yeah, it may be the same parking issues, the same parking crisis, the small apartments with the zoning, you want a variance on that. We don't need more residential in downtown. We need more businesses. That's what we need. And we don't have the parking for that. So that's all I have to say about it. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Do you have any cross-examination for this witness, Mr. Cook?
No, Mr. Price.
Okay.
The
I
other
have a
gentleman,
testimony.
yeah,
I was just getting to you, sir. So would you
Okay.
be sworn in, please?
Yes,
All right.
sir.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Please state your full name and address for the record.
Tyler Simmons, 547 Penn Street, Reading, PA 19601. Like I said earlier, I believe, especially after knowing the prices that he gave me, I believe this is going to turn into basically a public housing, and it's going to create a disaster for downtown.
Objection to the characterization.
Well, that's just the truth. So
It's not the truth.
I'm
You have
totally-
speculation.
okay,
I'm
let's not
totally
get into a
against it.
debate here, just, okay.
I'm totally against it because of the nature of the housing and how small the apartments are going to be and what that's going to attract and bring to downtown. Like I said, I've been owning a business for 10 years on Penn Street. So all you guys on here, I don't see you guys down on Penn Street. You really don't know what's going on. So you can object all you want, Mark, but I will tell the truth. So I'm totally against this. And that's it.
Thank you, sir. Do you have any questions for him, Mr. Cook,
None.
for the witness? Okay, is there anybody else that wants to testify against this? I
All
don't
right.
think I see anybody.
No, we're going to
All right.
close this appeal. And we'll issue a decision at next month's meeting. You need not be here. The decision will be mailed to you. I know all of you have honest interest in this, whether for or against, and we've been given a lot to think about. So we thank you all for your efforts this evening, and we'll make a decision at next month's meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. We appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sandra, do you need
quick-
a little break?
Yes, I need 5 minutes, please.
All right, let's take 10 minutes and then we're going to get back and we're going to keep rolling.
Mr.
Miss-
Rubino.
Yeah.
Sorry, we do have the applicant, a representative for the applicant for 715 Clinton Street. They are here in person. They did drive from Harrisburg, so we were just going to request if we could move them up to be heard first once we get back from our break.
Is that 2023-13?
Yes.
I think we'll accommodate that
Right.
this evening. I usually don't like to do that, but we'll,
I think 661 North 11th Street could be pretty quick, because I've read the application and the report, and I don't think there's really an issue there.
okay.
So we can
Well, then
get
why
that
don't
one.
we'll knock that one off real quick and then we'll go to 2023-13 and we'll get
Okay.
that one next. And I apologize for the changes, but that's the way things are sometimes. Thank you. Okay.
All right,
10 minutes, everybody back and ready to go.
Just so everyone knows, this will continue recording. So if you don't want your background to be heard, please mute yourselves.
How you doing, Jeff?
Ah, goodness, I didn't know you were watching me. I'm watching you. That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We should start to do some equations there.
Yeah. That's for sure.
Not sure if I remember how to do that.
Sure you do.
We're gonna have to have an executive
Obviously.
session.
Yeah.
Yep. What do we got? About 2 more minutes?
Which one you gonna start with, Phil?
We're going to start with 2023-10, 661 North 11th.
And I think Lancaster Avenue should be fairly quick, and Clinton
Yeah.
Street.
I emailed zoning to say that I think on the sign up sheet, there has to be a statement that the ability to comment will be determined at the time of the hearing. Because I think that's unclear to the people that were testifying tonight and and otherwise people, if they sign up, they think they're allowed to, and I think it would be helpful for the public to know that their standing issues will be determined at the time of the hearing.
If you could just send us an email to that effect,
did.
and we'll,
I
oh,
sent it
okay,
to Ruth.
okay. We can update then our, like,
Because
on our agendas and
And
postings
you know,
and
the
stuff.
other thing, while
I
you're,
thought
work-
Marcia was testifying on as a in her capacity as city council rep, and that she encompassed that area, because I think she might have encompassed that area.
District 2, I don't think is down there.
No, but that was my
But even, I mean, she is a council person. The other thing that we might want to think about putting on there is if they are testifying, like the guy for the parking authority or somebody for city council or somebody for the Demi Club, that they should have an authorization to come and speak. That might be other thing to add to that. I don't
Right.
know the proper wording of that, but
Yeah.
Yep.
I think that would save a lot of consternation.
All right, 10 minutes has passed.
All right. We're
Good.
ready to go.
Already.
Okay, we are back online, everyone. And what you were watching is the Wednesday, May 10th meeting of the Zoning Hearing Board for the City of Reading. We just took a 10-minute break and we are now work on Appeal 2023-10, 661 North 11th Street. Has notice for this appeal been given?
Yes,
Would you swear in our zoning officer, please?
Do you swear the testimony about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Price?
Thanks. I'll put some exhibits into the record, and I have some questions to ask the applicant after they're sworn. Exhibit number 1 is the notice. Exhibit number 2 is proof of publication of the notice. Exhibit number 3 is proof of posting of the notice. Exhibit number 4 is the application, including all of its attachments, and exhibit number 5 is the zoning ordinance of the city of Reading as amended. We'll swear
Okay.
Mr. Umberto Grande in.
Are you here, Mr. Grande? Okay.
Yes, I'm here.
All right.
Do you
we
swear
need
the
to swear
testimony
him
about to
in.
give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Mr. Grande, I'm going to ask you a couple of questions because I think I can get to the heart of this matter pretty quickly. Do you and your wife own 661 North 11th Street?
Excuse me?
That's correct.
I can't hear him.
That's correct. It's a JJJR Apartments LLC.
Okay. And there were three apartments in that property, correct?
That is correct.
And did you purchase it before or after the fire?
I purchased it before. I had it for a year before.
And at the time of the fire, there was three apartments at the property, correct?
That is correct.
And the fire destroyed a substantial portion of the building, but the city wasn't able to determine whether it was more than 50%, correct?
That's correct, yes.
And all you're asking to do is to keep your non-conforming status and have the building declared that the use was not abandoned. You didn't convert it to 2 apartments or to a single family home, correct?
No,
Okay, so you just want to be able to put back what was there at the time of the fire.
correct.
And do you have plans to do that within the next 6 months to a year if you're granted permission?
Yes, even sooner.
Okay, I don't have any other questions for Mr. Grande.
Okay, do any members of the board have any questions?
No, it's clear.
Okay. Anybody in the audience have any questions? All right. Any questions from Emily?
No questions.
Okay, Mr. Price?
Nope, no more.
Okay.
Thank you,
Any-
Mr. Grande.
Thank you so
All
much, guys.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we'll issue a decision at next month's meeting. You need not be here. A decision will be mailed to you. You win the award for shortest hearing of the year.
God bless. I feel for you guys after that last situation.
All
All
right.
right, thank you.
I'll
Okay.
grab the next
Now-
applicant then.
Yeah, now we're going to do Appeal 2023-13, 715 Clinton Street. Would you swear in the applicant, please?
I think she went to get them.
Okay. Where? Oh, okay. You want to swear in the applicant?
All right, will you please raise your right hand to the applicant? Do you swear the testimony about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Your full name,
Lauren McDaniel,
spell that.
McDaniel.
Thank you.
And I think I forgot to swear in Emily to see if notice for this appeal's been given.
Do you swear the testimony about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do. And notice has been given.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Price, you need to enter your exhibits.
Yep, I'll put some exhibits into the record. Exhibit number 1 is the notice. Exhibit number 2 is proof of publication of the notice. Exhibit number 3 is proof of posting of the notice. Exhibit number 4 is the application, including all of its attachments. And exhibit number 5 is the zoning ordinance of the city of Reading as amended.
Okay, are you represented by counsel or are you representing yourself?
I am representing the applicant and the owner of the property. I'm with a company called Steelworks Construction.
Okay,
And what is your name, ma'am? McDaniel?
Yes, Lauren McDaniel.
All right, why don't I ask you a couple questions if I can? All right. At the front of the application, there's a photograph of a large, looks like mid-century, mid-20th century industrial building. Is that the subject property?
Yes, it is.
And do you know what it was previously used for?
Yes, it was previously approved for the following uses, including manufacture, display, and sale of art, furniture, and artifacts, a cafe and restaurant, a banquet hall to be operated for an individual event with a private caterer, and for a 450 square foot living area in which a sole artist can reside and work for no longer than 30 days in a calendar year.
That was the prior zoning relief for that?
Yes, correct.
And your client has purchased it since then, or were they the same people that got that approval?
No, they purchased the property in September of 2022. The deed was made a part of our application.
And they want to turn it into a child daycare center, is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
And those other uses would not be occurring at the property?
The banquet hall use would continue. That is their intention. And then a portion of the first floor, they would like to make into the daycare facility. The remaining portion of the first floor, they still don't have the exact details of how they intend to use that space, but we would be prepared to come back at that point when we have more information.
Okay, so the living area is gone and the sale of art and furniture and all that stuff's probably gone as well, correct?
Correct, yes.
Okay, and this, how many children would be at this daycare center?
In our application, we included that it could potentially accommodate up to 50 children based on PA code regulations. I don't believe it is the intention of the applicant to have that many children, but a maximum of 50 children could be accommodated.
And there's off-street parking and the property is secured with the fence, is that correct?
That is correct.
And the owners of the daycare know that they'd have to provide a sufficient space outside for outdoor play for the children?
Yes, that is correct. We did provide a plot plan showing the location where an approximately 480 square foot outdoor play area will be located. We will be removing approximately 5 parking spaces to accommodate that requirement.
And would this be an operation from like 6 in the morning till 6 at night, or what were the hours of operation?
We propose likely no earlier than 7 a.m. and likely no later than 6 p.m., but it may even be more like 8 to 5. Yeah, most likely 8 to 5, but potentially slightly earlier and later.
But 6 to 7 would give you ample flexibility.
Yeah, I don't think there's any. Yeah, would be, more than enough time.
And are there going to be like card coded doors and security cameras and things like that?
I don't know if that was the intention. No, I do not believe so. The facility is secured by a fence, but
All right,
there is a security system and camera, yes.
but there is a security system. Okay. In the general neighborhood of Clinton Street, what's near there?
I don't actually know what all is. There is a school there. It is the MC district, so it is all commercial properties around there.
Who is talking?
The owner of the property is here with me as
Yeah,
well.
we can't have that because either you speak or she speaks, but we can't have that.
Fair enough.
We can't take 2 people down at one time.
I can speak to the general area. Since I went out to post, not sure if it'd be okay.
Who's that?
It's me, Emily.
Okay, I mean, yeah, why don't you testify about what's out there?
Okay, there are some commercial uses around there, but right at the end of Clinton Street, there is a park. I don't remember the name of it. There is also Olivets, and there is a school nearby, I believe.
There's out, can you repeat it? What
A
is
school,
that?
the Olivets, Olivets.
Thank you.
All right. And all right. I don't have any other questions for Ms. McDaniel.
Okay. All right, board members, let's start with Charlie. Any questions?
No, I have no questions.
Tom, questions?
No questions.
Jeff, question?
Just real quick, the banquet facilities of no intersection with the daycare. They're walled off somehow, or just to briefly talk about that.
Yeah, the banquet facility is located on the second floor of the building, and the daycare center will be located on the first floor.
That's about enough. Sure. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Harst? Questions?
No questions.
All right, just a couple of things. Mr. Price touched on them. I don't really have questions. I just want to remind you that you need a play area. You need to keep the students or the children and any other uses separated. And you need to have a very viable security system there. So, and also a safe drop area. Has the applicant designed a drop area?
Yeah, I believe it's already set up with the location for
Okay.
drop off.
Thank you. All right, anybody in the audience have any questions? Seeing none. Anybody for the application? Seeing none. Anybody against the application? Seeing none. Anything you would like to add, Emily?
No, we have already discussed it about just needing a floor plan of exactly where on the first floor daycare would be located once the permit goes to be reviewed and approve, deny, depending on your decision.
Okay, Mr. Price?
I have nothing further, sir.
All right, applicant, you have anything else you'd like to add? Okay, thank you.
Can I
That's
just get your address, the applicant?
Yes,
Okay.
the address, I'm sorry, can I ask the applicant, because I put my address as the representative?
Yeah, did you give an address as, I need your information.
430 North Front Street in Wormleysburg, Pennsylvania.
And the name of the company?
Steelworks Construction.
Thank you.
Yes.
okay. That concludes this appeal. We'll issue a decision at next month's meeting. You need not be here. The decision will be mailed to you, and we thank everybody for your efforts. And we'll move
Thank
on
you
to
very
the
much.
next hearing, to the next appeal. Okay. The next matter before us is Appeal 2023-11. It's 411 South 14th Street. Would you swear in our zoning officer, please?
You swear the testimony about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Okay, has notice for this appeal been given?
It has.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Price.
Thanks. I'll put some exhibits into the record. Exhibit number one is the notice. Exhibit number 2 is proof of publication of the notice. Exhibit number 3 is proof of posting of the notice. Exhibit number 4 is the application, including all of its attachments. And exhibit number 5 is the zoning ordinance of the city of Reading as amended.
Okay, thank you. And it looks like Mr. Cuck is going to represent the applicant, and either that or it's his evil twin brother. I'm not sure which. But anyway, you want to enter your appearance, and if you're going to have somebody testify, we'll have them sworn in at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Again, Mark Cuck on behalf of the applicant, ILD Properties LLC, represented by Mercedes Davis. She is an agent with Pagoda Realty. We
Okay.
can go ahead and have her sworn, please.
All right. Would you swear in the applicant, please?
Please raise your right hand. You swear the testimony about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Cuck.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. So what I have this evening is Mercedes is the owner of a property through her entity ILD Properties LLC at 411 South 14th Street. Mercedes, you are a realtor with Pagoda Realty, is that right?
Yes, I do.
And so you've been sworn, and are you an investor in certain properties in the city?
Yes,
And did you say yes, you are?
yes,
Okay. And did you acquire 411 South 14th Street in the R3 district?
yes,
And did you buy it as an investment?
yes,
And so is it a pretty big house?
yes.
When you bought the property, was it in a state of disrepair and a mess?
Oh, yes, a mess.
And what did you do with it? Did you clean it up?
I clean, I repair, I paint, I change the floor. I expend a lot of money.
So what you believed at the time was that the actual building was already converted to a 2-unit. Was that what you thought was going on?
Absolutely.
As you worked your way through the process, did you determine that it actually is not permitted or approved as a 2-unit?
I had my doubt, you
Mhm.
know, I thought that was 2-unit.
And so after you did a significant amount of work to clean it up, about how much money did you spend to convert this property? I'm sorry, not to convert, but to clean up the property, do the flooring, do the walls, painting, windows, that kind of stuff?
From 30 to 35,000, and I is still expending money because was a mess, completely a mess.
So you invested about 30 to 35,000
Yep.
into the property after you acquired it.
Absolutely.
And the concern and why you're here this evening is it's in the R3 district and you are not allowed to convert a single family residence into a 2-unit. Is that your understanding?
Yeah,
And so under the circumstances, with the property being set up already as a 2-unit, and I want to be clear, you did not do that, right?
no, I
But-
didn't.
But you have invested a significant amount into repairs and updating
Yes.
and cleaning up the property.
Yes,
And so at this point, you are requesting from the board permission to convert the single family into a 2-unit, is that right?
Yes,
And you are looking for the board's approval to do that. And if they're willing to do so, will you obtain all permits and approvals necessary for that?
yes, it's what I want to do. I always do the right thing
And
for the book.
so Emily, could you put up for me the floor plans, please, for the board?
1 second here.
Thank you. Thank you, Emily. So I think we're looking at the first floor plan, is that right?
This is the first floor.
All right, and so Mrs.
second floor.
Davis, you actually had, I'm sorry, go ahead. They're at the top there with second floor.
Sorry, they're both listed as second floor, so
Second floor.
Second floor is 2 bedrooms.
Yeah, second floor is a 2-bedroom unit. All right, so it's not coming up. So the
let me
first-
get this was the original that was submitted. Let me pull up the one you just sent me today.
Yeah, the one I sent you would be the clean version.
Okay.
So Mrs. Davis, while she's pulling that up, and the board will see this in just a minute, but the first floor, you have that proposed as a 1-bedroom unit, am I right?
Yeah,
And the board has heard some fairly extensive testimony tonight about the sizes of these units. In that particular instance, the 1-bedroom unit requires 530 square feet, is that right? And you have proposed, I'm sorry, 550 square feet. And you have proposed this first floor unit, which is a 1-bedroom unit, to have 489 square feet, am I right?
yes,
And so that's an existing first floor unit, correct?
yes, yes,
You didn't change the floor plan or anything like that,
not
did
at
you?
all.
But you have replaced flooring, you've replaced painting, and you've replaced windows.
Yes,
All right, and then when you look at the second floor plan, the next page, please. That has a 2-bedroom unit in it, am I right?
yes,
And the requirement for that under the code is 700 square feet, but this unit only has 486 square feet by the city's calculation, right?
yeah,
Would you propose to the board that you would put no more than 1 couple as tenants on each floor, is that right?
I absolutely.
And,
yes,
and do you believe that each of these floors has enough square footage to be safe and comfortable?
yes,
And again, you've indicated you would comply with any codes necessary to make these comply, right?
absolutely. Yes,
Especially with the International Building Code, we meet that to the best of your knowledge.
oh, yes,
All right. With respect to parking, there's a garage to the rear of the property, am I right?
yes.
And in that garage, do you think it could house 2 cars in it or just 1?
Is this a 2 small car? That would be absolutely fine.
So you think you can have 2 small
2
vehicles?
small car, yeah, a
And-
vehicle,
And is it your belief that there is plenty of parking on the street now?
yes,
So if the requirement is 3 spaces, you're asking the board to approve the conversion to allow basically the parking that exists in the garage that's there.
yes,
Do you believe that the relief you're requesting is detrimental to any of the surrounding property owners?
no,
Do you think that the amount of money that you've invested into the property and you will continue to invest in the property will increase the value of this property and of other properties?
absolutely.
No further questions for Mrs. Davis.
I just have one. While she's been doing all this work, has she been doing some of it herself there?
Have you been doing the work yourself there or hiring contractors?
I did some myself, but mostly somebody.
And
did
and
work.
when you were there, did any of your neighbors on either the left or right side of this home come and complain to you about the apartment or the parking?
No,
Okay.
no,
And do you know how long it's been a 2 unit building?
So what he's asking you is, you had said to me that you thought that it had been converted not by the last owner, but by the owner before that?
Yes,
And
yes,
Can you tell
I
them why
can
you think that?
because 2 kitchen, 1 upstairs, 1 in the first floor, the bathroom upstairs, in the bathroom in the first floor. And you can see especially in the kitchen, the place that they had the stove, the electric stove.
So it's already laid out as a
Yes.
2-unit. And the prior owner, it was vacant for quite some time, is that right?
Yes.
And it was full with a lot of trash.
Yes,
So you believe that the person who owned it before you, they had died, but you think that the owner before that's the one who made the changes?
the people that was living there for a long, long time.
2 owners ago?
Yes, I think so.
I have a quick question. How many electric meters and gas meters are there? Do you know?
1 meter.
Okay. All right. Mr. Price?
No, that's the question I was gonna ask.
Okay. All right.
Oh,
All right.
If you looked at the, were any of the appliances still in the kitchens when you got there?
No. No,
They had been taken out?
yeah. They had so much garbage, so many, how you say, container with picture and you name it.
Well, I was just
Lot of
trying to get an
stuff.
idea how old you estimated the electric range or gas range. Was it 20 years old or 30 years old?
No idea.
No idea. How about
Yeah.
the bathroom fixtures in the bathroom? Are they from the 1960s, 70s, 80s?
Oh, that were very, very old, very old.
In both bathrooms?
Yeah, yeah, very old.
All right, I don't know.
And messy, really
Okay.
bad. That was bad.
All right, thank you.
Okay. Mr. Jones, any questions?
No, I have none.
Tom?
Just one thing, looking over the report, am I wrong or am I right? Did the applicant buy this at a tax sale?
Did you buy this property at tax sale or did you buy it at an arm's length transaction?
Repeat again.
So did you buy this property at tax sale or did you buy it from another seller at arm's length transaction?
No, I bought from the guy that owned the last one, that he owned the place for a couple months.
So it was not a tax sale.
No,
Emily, did I misread something on the report? I could be wrong. Did you think it was a tax sale or didn't you know?
So I didn't type up the staff report, but that wouldn't be something that we would look into. I did pull up the listing online. And it looks like it was purchased, there was a sale in January 2022 and then another sale June of 2022. So
Tom,
if
I'm looking at the deed right now. It's part of the application. The deed is from a couple by the name of Morales and Velasquez, husband and wife, to ILD Properties on June 10 of 22.
yeah, so that's not something that we would look into how the sale was made.
It's not a tax sale. Mrs.
right.
Davis, what did you pay for the property?
how much I paid?
Yeah,
69,000.
she paid $69,000 for the property.
I borrowed the money, that was, cash.
Anything else, Tom?
No, I am interpreting what Emily had given me when I looked at it was a deed there and I was probably ignorant on that. So I'll take your word for what you say, Mark.
Okay.
Thank
Jeff,
you.
question?
No questions, no questions.
Bill, questions?
No questions.
And I don't have any at this point either.
I do have one question,
Oh, go ahead.
if I can. The attic space, is that accessible from that second floor unit? Is that part of the second floor unit?
Yeah, bueno,
So she's asking you if that attic is to be part of the second floor or just storage,
storage.
but
So
it's
it's not,
accessible from the second floor.
but it's
Well,
not going to be part of the unit. It,
Would
like
you
both
agree-
tenants would be accessible to
No.
that, or is that just for the second
No,
floor?
no. I didn't fix the audio or anything like that. No,
Who
no.
would have
Would
access?
not be
to that?
part of the
No.
second unit.
No, my question is, would only the second floor tenant have access to that attic, or is that a communal attic for both tenants?
The first floor tenant won't have the right to use that.
No.
Okay, so, seeing that, our definition for habitable floor area, would include, you could include the attic space as part of habitable area. So including the attic space with that second floor unit, they actually would have sufficient habitable area for a 2-bedroom unit.
Thank you very much, Emily. That was
Thank you,
helpful.
Okay,
Emily.
thank you.
So Emily's the only one who did the equations tonight with all these teachers.
Did a good
All
job.
right.
Thank you.
Okay, now, anybody in the audience have any questions of this applicant? Seeing none. Anybody in the audience want to testify for granting the application? Seeing none. Anybody want to testify against granting the application? Seeing none. Okay, we thank all of you, and unless somebody has something that they would like to add, like Mr. Cuck or whatever, I'll close this appeal and we'll issue a decision at next month's meeting. You need not be here. It will be mailed to you.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your time. I'll tell my evil twin that he shouldn't have gone so long earlier. I apologize for that.
All
Have a
right,
good
well,
evening. Thank
that'll be
you.
fine.
you.
Just warn him about that. And Emily wins the math award for this evening.
Thank you.
All right,
Thank
thank you,
you.
everybody. All right, and our last appeal for this evening is 2023-12, 733 Lancaster Avenue. Is the applicant present? Oh, let's swear Emily in first. Go ahead.
You swear the testimony about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Has notice for this appeal been given?
It has.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Price?
Thanks. I put some exhibits into the record. Exhibit number 1 is the notice. Exhibit number 2 is proof of publication of the notice. Exhibit number 3 is proof of posting of the notice. Exhibit number 4 is the application, including all of its attachments. And exhibit number 5 is the zoning ordinance of the city of Reading as amended.
Okay, and it looks like Ms. London is going to enter her appearance, and then we'll swear in whoever you want to have testify.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll have 2 witnesses tonight, George Ortiz, owner of American Barber and Beauty School, and Mark Christman, who designed the plans. All of the exhibits were submitted with the zoning hearing board application. I'll enter my appearance, Joan London, London at Hasloff Stout, 2640 Westview Drive, Wyomissing, for the applicant, American Barber and Beauty Academy.
You're
Okay.
welcome to do an offer of proof tonight. Mr.
Yeah, we need to swear in your witnesses, though, in case they
Yes.
testify. Go
Will you
ahead.
both please raise your right hand? You swear the testimony about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Okay, now, go ahead.
All right, to give you a brief offer of proof, and Mr. Ortiz can fill in any gaps. Mr. Ortiz will testify that the property is owned by Reading Investments. He's a tenant with consent to proceed, and the consent of the owner was submitted with the application. American Barber and Beauty Academy is a barber and beauty school. It is a licensed cosmetology school, licensed in good standing, and all instruction is by license.
I don't think he's in here.
We're getting some background from somebody.
Yeah,
Okay, I know the background. I'm in a quiet room, so it's not coming from here. All right, I'll try that again. The school, American Barber and Beauty Academy, is operated by Mr. Ortiz. It is licensed in good standing with the State Board of Cosmetology, license and instructions by licensed cosmetologists. There is a demand for the programs that are offered by the school. It is an existing use. There was a variance granted in 2019, and a copy of the decision was attached to the zoning application. But there's a great deal of demand for the programs and for the services offered. And in order to stay competitive and keep the school viable, there must be up-to-date classroom space, especially salon and shop space and classroom space. The addition would be of approximately 585 gross square feet of space. Mr. Crispin prepared the plans and he will run us through those plans.
How
And-
how much square footage is the barber school using now?
Mr. Ortiz, can you,
Yes, it's a little over 10,000 square feet.
So we're talking like a 5% increase in square footage to accommodate your already existing business, correct?
Did you say 5%?
yes,
Ten thousand square feet, and you're expanding it 585 feet, it's 5.8%.
Yes, so that's right.
And any of your neighbors have any objection to you expanding your school?
Not that was presented to me, no.
Let me ask the board, Ms. Lund, does the board need to hear any more testimony with respect to this de minimis expansion?
I don't. Mr. Jones,
No.
Mr. Fox,
No,
Mr. Gatone?
No, I know the place.
Okay, Mr. Harsh?
No.
The only question I have is I drove by there the other day and there was like 20 women in gowns standing in front of your barber shop. What was that about?
We have ceremonies pretty often. They graduate individually, so and we celebrate them individually. So you'll see a graduate and family and friends, and class.
I thought it was prom stuff or something. I was just curious. I had to know.
yeah,
Yeah.
there's also on the issue of parking, in case there are any questions, the staff report confirmed that there is sufficient parking in with the school and the buildings with which it's associated, and there'll be no need for any additional parking. This is mainly to serve current students and keep the school viable. There's no encroachments into any setbacks either, which is also confirmed by the the zoning staff report. Do you need Mr. Crispin's testimony on to showing the plans and renderings? They were attached with the application.
He's testified before. They're in the record because they're part of the application. So I don't think we need his testimony unless the board does.
I don't think any of us do, no. No,
No.
that's fine. And, it's a very nice facility and it's a great addition to that part of town. So,
Thank you.
all right. Is there anybody in the audience who has any questions? Seeing none. Anybody want to testify for the granting of the application? Seeing none. Anybody want to testify against granting the application? Seeing none. Okay. So unless Ms. London or anybody else has anything to offer, we'll close this appeal. Emily, I don't think I asked you if you had any questions or comments.
No questions.
Okay. Mr. Price?
No, just to the board, I'll have my secretary coordinate an executive session workshop.
Okay. And Ms. London, anything you want to add or?
Nothing further. Thank you for your attention.
Okay, you're more than welcome. So that closes the May meeting for the zoning hearing board for the city of Reading. We'll see you on the second Wednesday of June, and get out and enjoy the weather. Thank you, everybody. Good
Thank
night.
you.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you for your patience.